Subdivisions and multi-billion dollar corporations fighting. Who's going to win? Good afternoon, everybody. Today we have a story that will go on forever, for all of time. It's the greedy corporations that have decided that buying single-family homes is the best place to spend their money, best chance of getting a return on their money, and then regular people that just go to work every day and are trying to live in a subdivision and be in peace. But as we know, in today's world, you can't ever have peace when you're living. You have to, every time you go outside, you have to have either a neighbor, HOA, some corporation, something to keep you from enjoying yourself and just having a quality life. So with that being said, let's get into the article. I'm going to do it two different ways today. I've got my little list of thoughts, and then I want to go on the fly because I want to get better at it. And so that's how we're going to do it. So here we go. Article headline, which I always screw up. It's subdivisions push back against home sales to rental firms. And so that's a catchy headline. And this is out of Indiana. It says homeowners associations in central Indiana are taking steps to prevent an incursion of rental homes in their neighborhoods as national investment firms eye the purchase of single-family properties despite rising prices. It says at least 200 area homeowner groups have modified their subdivision covenants in the past 5 years to limit rentals, a number that is based on the work of just one law firm. More neighborhoods have likely taken action after years of seeing homes once occupied by their owners gobbled up by large investors who want to add them to a stable of rentals. But experts say that it's difficult to document just how much buying is being done today by so-called institutional investors. And I understand that. And the reason why it's difficult is because if you're a regular Joe and you want to buy a house for a rental, you typically put it in an LLC. Okay. And so if you're looking at tax records and you see so-and-so LLC, no big deal. But when you have these large institutional investors, they also put their stuff in an LLC, and they're much more complex in the way they do things than a regular, mom and pop shop. So, they could have 14 or 15 different LLCs in a community. You'll never figure out who they are if you don't have some sort of insight. So tracking this is very, very difficult. Experts say the region has seen an influx of cash offers on houses. This can be a sign that investors behind the purchase, although it's a common tactic for other buyers in a hot real estate market, which has been the case for past 2 years. So that's correct. The best way to get a house right now is say you're going to buy it in cash. But so for investors, the exact same thing is true. The best way for them to buy houses in cash. So it's hard to track. And then they talk about it and they say it's hard to say whether the activity has been driven by house hoarding investors. So there's a group on the internet that says, oh, the sky is falling. There's institutional investors buying up the houses. I'm not saying that. I believe that it's true. Do I have any statistics to back it up? No. We do know that there are a good number of equity firms, hedge funds, and institutional investors. So we know a lot of product is being sold that way, but I can't really share any good data on how many of those are coming in. We're watching it and we're trying to figure out how to study it going through public records. And so immediately what comes to mind is how do we force title companies to document who owns a home? And then what's the bad side of that? So right now, like back when I started in St. Louis, you didn't have to put a price for a purchase. The title company wasn't required to. So I could go buy a fix and flip. I could go buy something for $40,000. I could sell it for $120,000, and no one knew how much I spent on the fix and flip or how much I was going to make. Now you're required to in St. Louis County. And as far as having an owner, you're required to have an owner on the deed. Yes, that's required to be, that's on the tax records. But, even then, do we really want to be going in and finding out exactly who owns what home just to be able to measure how many institutional investors are actually purchasing home? I mean, then you get into an issue of scale. You've got companies that are buying hundreds of houses and thousands of houses, and then you've got people that are buying 5 and 10. So where are we at on which is bad? Are they all bad? Are they somewhat bad? I don't know. So anyway, then it has this line here in the article. It says the National Rental Home Council, which I've never heard of, estimated in 2017, which is 4 years ago, that only about 0.2% of the U.S. single-family housing stock is owned by institutional investors. So that's not even close to relevant. It's a nice line, but I'm quite positive that institutional investors own quite a bit more properties now. I don't know what MIBOR is, but it generally supports HOAs that take steps to protect neighborhoods when homeowners see an increase in rental activity. But neighborhood leaders need to find a balance. So I agree with that. Renting one house in a 200 house subdivision isn't going to kill property value. Okay, renting 150 houses in a 250 or in a 200 house subdivision is going to cause problems. And so we see both sides of this argument. We're trying to weave our way through it just like everyone else is. How do we protect private property rights and the right to have options and opportunities for homeowners and business owners versus losing the whole market to these large conglomerates? It's really a complex question. It is. And it never used to exist this way. So we'll go through a little bit more of the article. She said another agent said that institutional buyers became especially active in neighborhoods in the aftermath of the Great Recession when the housing market dropped and properties were significantly cheaper. That led to larger number of rentals homes in neighborhoods that had traditionally been owner occupied. That's, Downey said, even in today's market with prices jumping, the practice is still coming. That's correct. From 2007 on, institutions have been buying properties, single family homes. This one subdivision implemented a limit on rental properties shortly after its concentration of homes hit 10%, which is where the neighborhood set its limit. This agent said she's not opposed to having some rental properties in her neighborhood, but think the number needs to be limited. I think there's a place in every community where investors are positive. It depends on who the investor is and how they feel about the community, and if they're doing it for merely economic reasons or if there's some altruistic reason as well. I don't think it's a negative to have investors in a community. I think it needs to be restricted. It cannot be a higher percent than owner occupied. So on this, it's a very fascinating thing she said. If they're doing it merely for economic reasons. So do you think that Zillow is doing it for an altruistic reason when they buy houses in the iBuyer program? Do you think that, I think there's American Home Rentals, and there's one other one that are the big purchase to rent. Do you think that they are doing it for altruistic reasons? Or is it completely generated by profit, and they can say whatever they want to, is which way the winds blow? I would argue that that's the case. Then there's an attorney who works with HOAs and condominium groups for how do we restrict these in our neighborhoods. It says homeowners associations generally act after several homes have been already bought by institutional renters in the neighborhood or in nearby subdivisions, leading to concerns among other homeowners about crime and property values, which is very, very fascinating. The crime argument, more rentals cause crime, or there's some sort of correlation, and then property values. So I live in a neighborhood where there's not very many rentals and we still have crime. I don't feel like we live in a bad part of town either. So I don't know. It's strange what people worry about. But if you can couch a cause in safety, you can normally get it through. That's just what I've learned in my life. Neighborhood covenants are typically written when a property is developed and rarely include restriction on rentals. So why is that? Well, at one point in time, no one would want to buy a single family rental. And that wasn't why they were being built. They were building single family homes so people could get out of rentals because they were terrible. But anyway, it says the HOAs generally take on two routes: capping the number of rentals allowed in a neighborhood altogether based on a percentage or fixed number of homes, or adding an occupancy stipulation that requires property owners to live in their homes for a set number of years before the house can be rented. So, the lawyer's right here. He said many homeowners, even those who live in the houses they own, have mixed feelings about approving changes to neighborhood covenants, particularly when it comes to rental rules. That's because they're often unsure whether they might want to or need to rent their home someday. So they don't want to be too limited because it could negatively impact them. Yet at the same time, they will nod their head in agreement that some restrictions are needed so there aren't too many rentals in the community. And so that's just it. If you got into a spot where you had to rent out your home, you'd like the ability to do so. Okay, that is a different type of renter than an institutional renter with billions of dollars behind them. And that's my argument. That's where the problem exists. It's not like buying, I don't want to restrict anybody from, a great way for wealth is to invest in real estate. I don't want people to not be able to do that. But at the same time, we're talking scales different than we've ever had before, and technology allows us to do these kinds of things. One of the things that the agent originally says is would-be buyers understand what they can do with the house well before they've made that decision to buy in that neighborhood, especially if they think they might want to use it as an investment. So I'm all for, like in St. Louis, there's different condominium complexes where they've instituted no leases, or you can only lease to a family member or something like that. Agents are very, very good in St. Louis so far about putting those in the listing, so that I'll have an investor call me and say, hey, let's buy this condo, and I tell them, look, they're not going to let you rent in this subdivision or in this condo complex, so don't even bother. And I think that's fair. I think that's reasonable. If a condo board has decided that's what they want to do, that's totally fine. Then it goes into this broker who is also the president of a homeowners association, which represents 85 houses on the north side of Indianapolis. So this is a commercial guy. He understands real estate, and he says, the neighborhood, which offers residents a heated community pool, a tennis court, a playground, and a bike path, is considering measures to limit rentals after a few homes were purchased by or through First Key Homes, a portfolio company of New York-based investment company Cerberus Capital Management and other companies. It says First Key is headquartered in Marietta, Georgia, and operates 20 U.S. markets, managing some 24,000 single-family homes nationwide. So in this particular First Key, it says they're owners of more than 200 properties in Indianapolis, but it owns or manages many more throughout the region. And then she went to the website. It listed 119 homes currently available for rent across central Indiana. And what he says, the head of this subdivision or this HOA, says, we're not against homes ultimately being rented as an alternative to sale. It's a decent investment, and we're fine with that. Where some of us take issue is when the rights and privileges of home ownership are being taken from other people by the out-of-town investors who don't care about the community. And because we're a small community, the more homes that are acquired with that money and that mentality concerns us. I don't think that's wrong. I don't think that statement's wrong at all. Then it comes into this. It says, then the way the article is written, it says, Reller says the effort to enact new covenants in the Wilson Green neighborhood is specifically intended to curb institutional investment. But a spokesman for this First Key says it takes great pride in having a positive and professional relationship with HOAs to better the community while providing our family of residents with safe, affordable, and high-quality homes they can call their own. And I want you to understand this. When you have someone that puts out a spokesman, when you have a spokesman, they can say whatever they want to say, and they say it just so that they can get through that moment. And I learned this with American Airlines in St. Louis, Missouri. American Airlines bought TWA. This was the home of TWA in St. Louis. They said they were not going to move the hub. They were going to keep everybody's jobs where it is. And you try to find an American Airlines hub in St. Louis, Missouri today. They lie. They don't realize they're lying, but that's their job. So what rental company is going to come out and say, you know what, we really don't care about any of you people living in the community. All we want is a return on our investment. So you can go pound sand. You're never going to have a spokesperson say that. So why do we even waste our time with it? I mean, I don't know if you remember Baghdad Bob in Iraq. This is the same BS. But anyway, another lady, president of another home organization, said her organization is considering efforts to prevent more rentals from entering the neighborhood, but hasn't made any financial decisions. She said many homeowners in the neighborhood are concerned about the long-term effects of rental properties that they could have on their property values, particularly if those homes are not maintained. They're also concerned about HOA can effectively reach property owners or management companies to discuss violation or damage to one of their properties. So you know better than that. You're all smart enough to know you're not going to get a response from a New York-backed property investment firm when the gutter isn't when the gutter's hanging off the. It's not. It's not going to happen. So, I mean, while that's a valid concern, you already know what the answer is. Everybody does. So I have a few things. I'm running a little bit late, but I did want to go through some of the stuff I saw. Let's see, I can cut some of these off. One of the things is, what's a good rental to private ratio for a subdivision, and how is that different than Airbnb? It's tough. It's tough. One of the things that's different now than before is there never used to be this much money behind corporations buying houses in local areas. So you never had someone the size of a Cerberus Capital Management able to come in and just snatch up houses. That's one thing that I have a problem with. Certain fellow on Fox News talks about, his politics all the time, and he happens to own quite a huge portfolio of homes. So it's always good for somebody else, but it's not good for you. So anyway, with that, I think I'm going to head out. I managed to go straight off the article. Hope you enjoyed it. If you like real estate related content, if you like, we talk about HOAs, subdivisions, things of that nature, go ahead and smash the like button, subscribe. If you think I'm a total idiot and totally wrong about this, well, go ahead and leave a comment in the comment section below. Whatever you'd like to do. Thank you for watching. Thank you for listening, and I'll catch you on the next one.